I do have some coaches that are out going right now that have got 1 million+ miles on them. 30 years, 1.2 million documented miles under my belt. This has got 2 showers, 2 complete full bathrooms. I don't think anybody's done it yet.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have found what I think is the most customized, the best floor plan I've ever seen in a Prevost. Today we're hanging out here at Russell Coach in Knoxville, Tennessee with Rob Russell.
Nice to see you.
Likewise, sir. I know you've got a lot of stories, a wealth of information, and your latest build here is just incredible, unlike anything we've ever seen.
Oh, we're excited about it. We think it's the first floor plan in the industry to have dual shower, dual restroom, and very accommodating for the right lifestyle.
And you've done a lot of really custom stuff in this bus that we've never seen before. So I've got a lot of questions I want to ask you today. This is going to be a video worth watching the whole video. We've got a lot to learn today. You've been in the Prevost conversion industry and tour bus industry for quite some time now.
Yes.
And you recently built this custom bus for a private owner, unlike anything we've ever seen. I want to hear all about this, but how did you originally get into the Prevost industry and when was that?
Well, in March of 1995, I started Russell Coach Company, which is a 30-year-old this month custom tour bus leasing company. And so most of our customers are entertainers that tour full-time, politicians, sports groups, that kind of thing. Then in 2006, out of necessity, we opened Russell Coach Works, which is a full-blown conversion and interior shop. We do a little bit of service, and most of the time that's customers that have been with us for quite a while. And so we'll work on their stuff, and we kind of work that in around the needs of Russell Coach Company. So if there's a spot that opens up and the timing's right, we'll work on your coach. That's kind of what we've done over the last 30 years.
And how many Prevost do you have in your fleet currently?
So currently, counting this unit, we are at 12 coaches. We are one of the smaller coach companies in the industry, but we've been around for a long time. So we felt that the quality and the attention to detail was much more important than the volume and numbers. And I always wanted to control it. And if you've been part of my organization, you know, they all kind of funny say that, yes, if he's got to have his hand on everything. So I'm still very active. I'm still on the floor. I still do a lot of the bookkeeping. I still do all the ordering. I communicate with Prevost when we have a need. We are very hands-on, and it is very, very family.
Yeah, and I've heard you're the best kept secret in the industry. And I also heard you're still the guy that answers the phone at 2 o'clock in the morning if a driver needs some help.
I do still do that, yes. My cell phone's never off. The only time I don't answer it's when I'm in the shower. And so I do live with it. I'm never without it. In fact, I've had the same cell phone number since 1985. So I've never changed it. That's one of the things that we pride ourselves on. You can still get the owner 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We try to do whatever it takes to make you have an experience that is worthy of repeating.
Yes, sir. And actually, the owner of this bus is the one that had us come out here today because he spoke so highly of you. And with all the research that he did, he was just really impressed with the way that you build your coach. I think there's something to be said about the guy that has to answer the phone at 2 in the morning.
That's right.
Is the guy building the coach.
Yes.
You're going to build it to keep them going. Now, what is your philosophy for how you build a coach?
We do somewhere between 6,500 and 8,500 miles a month per unit, which equates some, 70,000 miles a year. So it's a little bit different than the motorhome world. They don't travel quite as much unless they're full-time. Sometimes some full-time folks, they like to travel everywhere and see everything they can do. And those are the ones, in my opinion, that have a unit that's much more appealing to purchase, even though the miles are higher. It's kind of like a plane. Planes are awesome to look at in their hangar, but man, if they're not in the air, and that's where they need to be. So these need to be on the road. That's one of the greatest things that I think Prevost has really brought to the table over the years in their marketing is it is the ultimate ride. It is the 1 million mile coach. Well, I am a Prevost customer that can tell you they're more than a 1 million mile coach. They go a lot further than that. The preventative maintenance is key. We probably overdo it. I probably drive all my drivers crazy with how we overdo. And so I'm a guy that is, if you're cleaning everywhere, no one is looking, then you're cleaning everything else. And cleanliness has a lot to do with its longevity. And so a little bit of elbow grease is well worth the mileage that you get out of them.
Yes, sir. And this coach is more of a different build than anything I've ever seen before. Built more for like an executive that uses team drivers, or how is this owner using this coach?
This particular owner, when we started the relationship, we found that what he was looking for, into our blessing, he is an absolute just bus fanatic. He loves them. He loves the way musicians travel from show to show. He loves the idea of a motorhome. And so what we've done is we've basically taken the best of both worlds and we've married those together. And so this is built roadworthy and tough for touring just like an entertainer tours, but then bringing the executive feel to things. He has his own master suite in the rear. He can close himself off from the rest of the coach, and that will encompass his own private bathroom with his own shower. This coach has 2 drivers that he keeps on standby all the time. They have to have a 48-hour notice, and then they got to roll. No matter what's going on in their worlds or ours, that coach has to be ready to move within 48 hours every day of the year.
Wow.
Those guys, I guess for an old term, they wear the pager. This has a bunk section in it. It's set up as condo bunks right now. It can have 3 bunks. But right now it's set up as condo, which are 2 larger bunks. And then they have their own restroom, their own bathroom, and they have their own shower. And then when we step up into the front lounge, we've got a larger kitchen. We've got a custom backsplash. We've got a dinette booth in the slide out with a full couch, and then seat belts as required by NHTSA. And then he's got his own custom desk with his own custom chair on the passenger side. So there's no couch on the passenger side. In the front lounge, it accommodates him. And what that allows him to do is work as he goes down the road. Our Wi-Fi and internet setup is a combination of 3 sources of data from cellular providers. And then we also have Starlink. And the technology that we use today, the customer never knows what network they're on, but they have no loss or interruption, no buffering, that kind of thing. One thing I like about him, he's hands-on like me. So this coach currently right now is about 17,000 miles, and he has communicated me with every time on how it works, and the feedback is phenomenal.
Yeah, that's great to hear, and I'm really looking forward to going in depth looking at the interior of this coach. Now, the exterior color, when we walked in here, man, it is popping. And then I saw some of the pictures on the wall. Your fleet is kind of like the Skittles colors. You like the bright colors. Was there an inspiration for that?
To be honest, 30 years ago, I bought my first Prevost in 1998. I found out in the options that one color was included in the price. Cash flow and those kind of things weren't exactly what they are today in 1998. So I was like, well, I get a color in the base price of the coach. So we started picking colors, and drivers through the years that we've had, I'd be like, what color do you want? Or now, later in life, I kind of did things backwards. My kids now kind of have a little bit of input in what color, except this one. This color was themed and driven and tied into this individual's business, but it's turned out phenomenal. It's beautiful. That's kind of how we've arrived at our colors. And then the neat thing about the entertainer side in our world is that you've got larger fleets out there. They may be the same color. They may have the same paint design and paint scheme. And then here we come pulling in the parking lot, and it's like, there they are. And
it's Russell Coach.
It is. And it's like, you know, I've heard a lot of drivers say on social media, and I say it too, A, it's not a bad way to hang out in a parking lot. And B, if you're touring and you lose the coach you're riding on, if you're riding on a Russell Coach, then something's wrong.
You got bigger problems.
You got bigger problems. Then I found it when we do have a boo-boo or two, and it's a whole lot easier to paint and do the body work on one color than it is on multiple colors. And so they seemed a little bit larger than life, the one color, because there's so much of it. Nothing's really broken up. And so it's kind of a little overwhelming when you pull into a parking lot and it's like, here you are. And so it's worked. It's become part of our branding. I don't think I've ever really heard anything negative about the colors, but you absolutely know we've arrived in the parking lot or wherever your destination is, you know we're there.
Now, this is on the X3 shell. Now, how many coaches and how often do you build a new bus, or do you have them in production constantly, or how does that work?
I don't. Our business model is a little different. And so what we do is we are so a la carte in how and what we build. We have found that the philosophy of, if I can be quiet long enough and listen to the customer, then we can deliver to them what they need. I think of a true custom build as being able to provide the knowledge that we have over the years, the millions of miles that the company has done collectively, the issues and the problems that we experience at 2 and 3 in the morning. And if I can add that into the motorhome world and eliminate those issues and build a unit that somebody wants that nobody else will build, nobody understands their lifestyle better than they do. For example, I built a coach one time. We dropped the floor down into the bay because the guy was 6'8". So
wow.
He couldn't stand up in a shower without bending over. Now, we've never done that again, but I would do it again. We try to pay attention to the details that are requested out of their necessity, not ours. But on the flip side, I had a guy one time want me to put inverters underneath his rear bedroom. I didn't think that was a great idea. I explained to him why. And he was like, I get it. That's a bad idea. Let's not do that. So everything's in the bay, accessible, easy to get to, easy to work on. And so that's our philosophy.
And how many coaches have you built? I know you were playing with an old Eagle before you got into the Prevost you mentioned.
Well, when I started, Eagle was the requested coach at the time. Any company that had any amount of units in their fleet, they all were Eagles. And so then when Prevost came into the market, I've always been a little conservative in my approach. So some of the bigger guys, they started buying Prevost. I started paying attention to what wasn't working, what was working. Here's the great thing about Prevost. They paid attention to what wasn't working either. They changed. They evolved. Now I can say this is honestly the best riding vehicle, hands down, not to use any custom car or luxury car brand, but that honestly, that's the Rolls Royce of land travel. That's just a fact. They've listened, they've paid attention, they're accommodating. That has paid off because now you've got companies that have been building custom coaches since the 60s and stuff. And so it's just fascinating how our world has evolved into what it is. And so what I bring to the table is 30 years, 1.2 million documented miles under my belt. And I think what that does for us is when I have a conversation with a potential customer or a current customer, I'm able to have an understanding of how and why this isn't working for them. They just know it doesn't work. I've got to have an understanding of why it doesn't work and what are we going to do to make it better and eliminate that issue and problem. Because a lot of times, as you well know, the devil's in the details. Wiring numbers being the same numbers consistently. So if you've got 2 or 3 buses on a tour and you've got a water pump that goes out on the DC side and then 2 days later you've got a water pump in the same coach that goes out, it's the same wiring number. It's the same plumbing part. Those kind of consistencies have helped us over the years. And then we're able to have quite a bit of large parts department for the size company we are. My shop foreman says, I know I just told you we only needed 2 of those. I know you're going to order 4. We try to live by that because we have found in the past sometimes the supply chain is just, it is what it is. And it's controlled sometimes by things that are beyond our control. So I have found that a lot of times it's just easier to sit on stuff and have it ready available.
How many coaches a year are you building, or how many coaches have you built over the last 30 years or so?
Over the last 30 years, we built 27 coaches. Most of them are entertainers. About 10 of them are motorhomes, or we've had such a success at remodeling. There are some converters out there that think they built it right the first time. We love those people because, man, they come and they've got some great ideas and we will remodel from one end to the other. And that's the fun stuff because then the customer's really involved. And if they live pretty close, they get to come by, they get to see what's happening. They love taking pictures of their remodel and they'll keep those. I've got one guy, his wife is super talented at creating coffee books, and she's got a really nice custom coffee book of every step of the way during the remodel. And she gave us one. She's got one. She keeps it on their little table beside their couch and their slide. But we didn't originally build that bus. And so here's the other thing. We pay great attention to not changing the conversion of some competitor's coach, because what we don't want to do is have such a remodel that it changes the integrity of what the other converter built. That's important because resale is key. I think everyone that ever buys one of these needs an exit strategy. You've got to understand how you're going to sell it to the next user. You may be wanting to get out of it completely. You may want to be stepping up and have another one. And so I think when you do a remodel and you do those things, you've got to keep in mind and be mindful of, oh gosh, I'm going to go in here and change this so much it's not going to look like it originally was. And here's the reality. People that buy my stuff that are used and want one of our things, they're buying it because of who we are. The nice thing about it is that we have a foundation that we've started with. And so what makes us somewhat unique in our industry is that our foundation is so strong. They're complicated to build, but it would be much harder to build it in something else.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we feel those things are important.
Yeah, and so most of the coaches that you have built, you're building for your own personal fleet.
Yes.
To be the end user of these
Yes.
coaches.
Yes.
And how many miles do you put on average on every coach that you build for yourself?
I have a lot of people tell me that I probably should have sold stuff sooner than I have. I do have some coaches that are out going right now that have got 1 million+ miles on them. We've found over the years that if you'll keep them up, maintain them, like for example, we change our shocks on our buses every 18 months, whether they need it or not. They do at 18 months. But then we change airbags at the same time. We change all 8 Norgren valves at the same time. We change the 3 ports and the 5 port valves, and we do all that. If we change one belt, we change them all. Sometimes it's like a NASCAR pit stop here. Sometimes a driver will come in and he's dead heading home, and it's got 2 days for the shop to put their hands on it. And then on top of that, while that's going on, it needs to be cleaned. We try not to do that, but sometimes that happens because our business sometimes on the leasing side, it's about a 10 and a half month year business. Years ago, it used to be about 8 and a half months. And so you got a little bit more time to put your hands on things. Certain times of the year, you prioritize what your to-do list is. And you listen to your driver, and he comes home. They email me their to-do lists a couple of days before they get here. That way, if I've got to order anything, if we don't have it, then it's here waiting on them. We got our own way of executing things. For the most part, it's a pretty well-greased machine.
Yeah, and your drivers probably kind of stick with the same bus for the most part?
Yeah,
or?
That's another thing where we're a little unique. Sometimes at other places, I hear that those drivers, they never know what they're going to drive. Here, we put them up for bid, so to speak, every year at our drivers meetings. And it's kind of funny. Some guys are like, I don't know why that one's up for bid. He's not getting out of it. or you'll hear guys say, well, man, I moved everything in it. I really don't want to move, because when they go home, they leave everything in their bays. They're set up the way they want them to be set up. The only thing I ask out of them is, you know what? It's hard when you've got 12 or less people on a coach, but if you're cleaning a little bit every day, everywhere, it won't get away from you. So that includes your personal space, because I do things a little different. So in my 12 sleeper coaches, the first bay belongs to the customer. Half of the second bay belongs to the customer. The other half is plumbing. The third bay on the passenger side is all of the electrical, DC and AC, inverters, etc., and that's the driver's bay. Then on the flip side of that is where the generator is. And we install our generator a little different. We're using DuraWatt.
Yes, sir.
And those guys are awesome. In fact, their sales guy came up when we switched to them. I had told him a little bit about what we used to do and how we did it. I think he'd done some business in Nashville, and he drove over, took all the measurements, went back to their factory, made the modifications so we could stick the generator into our space the way we do. Those guys, they're phenomenal. They always answer the phone. They're willing to help you. They'll help you create and find a solution. We had a little brain issue one day, and I think it got a little bit too much moisture in it, but we called and they were like, man, we got one in Nashville if you can get there. And the bus just happened to be going that way, and we ended up not needing it. But the nice thing about them is they're always solution driven and ready to help.
I think I've seen some of the other, coaches at that $3 million range switching to those DuraWatt generators recently.
Yes.
Now, you're mostly building these coaches for yourself,
yes.
But I'm curious, how did this gentleman convince you to build a coach for him? And are you willing to build more coaches for end users as well?
Absolutely. I think that part of what makes us successful is I don't build a coach and hope it sells. I've been very, very blessed that every coach I've ever built for any individual has already been sold. We don't really have a take a trade kind of thing, because now there's too many outlets out there for the customer to move their own unit if they have one. The neat thing about me is I've never sold a customer a coach that hadn't owned one on some level or had some experience. So they already have a knowledge base of what they want and what they're looking for. And so the neatest thing about this, from my research, and I keep up with everybody, there are motorhome builders in the world out there that I have always looked up to and think that they just build phenomenal stuff. So when I have their coaches in here and we're remodeling, I'm like, man, now I see why they did that. That's awesome.
Taking notes, yes, sir.
So we might have to figure out how to maybe do our own version of that. And here's the thing. What I think sets us apart is, for example, and what I was going to say about the history of this floor plan, this has got 2 showers, 2 complete full bathrooms. I don't think anybody's done it yet.
They haven't. And I've been telling them all that I think that a 2 full bathroom, 2 shower floor plan is the way to go. I mean, the kids can shower separate from the parents, or husband and wife can have their own area.
And I'll be honest, I was like, I'm fastly approaching 30 years old, the company. And I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. Well, this particular individual, when we first, back to your earlier question about how we got started and how he approached us, I think, if my memory serves me right, we actually rescued him. He had leased a bus from somebody in our industry, I think, and they had a little bit of an issue. They needed it covered. He liked how we did it. It's turned into this relationship. He said, man, you ought to build me one. I'm like, man, I you know what? I'll just be honest with you. I'm not the fastest builder. I am not the fastest builder. But what I have always stood on with our philosophy and our integrity and our approach, it will be right before it leaves. It will be everything that human hands can possibly make it be, from functionality to everything behind the wall, because my name's on it. The one thing my daddy gave me just can't be tarnished. The integrity side of our build is very, very important. I don't want a customer to ride down the road and go, man, I just can't believe we did this. I want them to ride down the road like this particular customer, and it's like, I'll get a text every now and then. In fact, I got a text, earlier yesterday, because I was like, tomorrow's the big day. Andrew's going to be here. It's awesome. I can't wait. He's like, I know you're going to knock it out of the park. Every time he and I talk, I walk away a little better. He is one of the most encouraging fellas that I've ever spoke with. And along those ways, you have a few speed bumps. We had one little thing, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to go so awful. And he was still gracious, but we understood what we needed. That's how we do things. I really want everybody that deals with us to have an experience that mounts up to being at Disney World.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I do, because this, whether you are an entertainer, whether you are an entertainer driver, whether you are an individual like owns this coach, this should not be stressful. And sometimes it is. I don't want my customers, when they ride up and down the road, I don't want them to know when there's a problem. Well, that's in your culture. That's in your training. That's in what do you bring to the table? What sets you different? There's 35 entertainer bus companies. They've all got Prevost. What sets you apart? And so those are some of the things I think that does that. The longevity sure doesn't hurt, because, man, I'm telling you, I'm one of those people, when I bump my knee, I really bump my knee. So I've learned to pay attention to that, So when you stumble, you got to get back up. For the most part, things here are very culture driven. The culture here is very, very important, because I've found over the years, people don't quit companies, they quit people. And so I've had gentlemen driving for me that are fastly approaching 17 years. The newest guy's been with us a year and a half.
Well, can we take a closer look at this, Coach? I'm really excited. I've got a lot more questions I want to ask you about your story and Russell, Coach. But
absolutely.
You were mentioning the bays are, the front bay is going to be for the user of the coach.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to seeing how you configure your bays here.
Okay. Well, like I said earlier, the front bay is completely empty. It's a pass-through. You can get a lot of stuff in there. We finish our bays out black. We put a black tile in the floor. That way, if there's ever any damage or anything, you can go one piece at a time. But we've found probably about every 3.5 years or 4 years of road life, we just replace it. Cases that have got wheels, I've found over the years, this seems to work the best. This particular customer, they wanted, in bay 2, we usually have this bay, it goes in about 35 inches. And it's empty as well. And what that does is years ago, the Entertainer, although the same wheelbase, had 5 bays. So if you took bay number 1 and you took bay number 5, the same square footage is this bay and about 40 inches deep. Now, everybody said it was smaller, but it wasn't. It was the same amount of square footage. But this particular customer, they wanted their own custom toolbox. Behind the fire extinguishers is the access point to the central vacuum system. Every one of our coaches gets a central vacuum system. That way you're not trying to figure out, where to hide your vacuum, because none of us build anything because the real estate's so valuable inside. We don't want to, clunk it up with some vacuum cleaner that you've bought somewhere.
Yes, sir.
So we build that into our build. So we centrally locate that in the kitchen. Our hoses are about 30 feet long, so you can go from one end to the other. They come with their own beater bars and those types of things and all the fun tools. And then there's a company that we use, and we do a little drawing, send it to them. They make it the way we have them make it, and then we install. And this one ended up having one 10-inch drawer, 2 5s, and a 3. It's solid in there, and you can carry quite a bit of stuff with you. The customer wanted that, and now this is one of those things where I never think you're too old to learn. So this is one of those things now I think I want to do in all of mine. But the nice thing about it is I've had another driver, he's got a toolbox about this wide, and so, but it's deeper. So he carries that in his bay. It's not as wide, but it's way deep. And this company will make that too.
Very cool.
And so then this is what we most of the time refer to as our driver's bay. But this houses access to the starter side of the generator. Now we're using a 5,000 watt.
I see that. That's
inverter.
the big boy inverter there.
Yes, we use one of those.
Just one?
Yep. And in our motorhome builds, we use 2.
Okay.
Yep. And so then in our Entertainer world, we find that sometimes on the passenger side, you need to be able to put fresh water in. So we do that here. We can put fresh water in on the driver's side as well. This particular coach, the demand is, the house battery system is 4 Group 31 batteries. We charge in 24 volts. We step in how Prevost does with a Vanner equalizer, and we get out the 12 volts that we need. And so it's a fairly simple system, but it's very, very reliable. Then the yellow box there, that's all of our DC distribution. And we stay true to Prevost. If it's yellow, it's the same voltage Prevost does. If it's red, it's the same voltage that Prevost does. And we carry that throughout our coach. And then the blue box is automatic transfer switch, leg 1, leg 2 power, and the inverter breakers. I have those boxes custom built for us. The yellow box on purpose is the width of a Group 31 battery, so it's all solid.
Yes, sir. And it looks like I see a holding tank dump on this side as well.
Yes.
Now, how big are your holding tanks in this coach?
Holding tank in this coach is 115 gallons. We combine the black and gray water. We've found over the years that, surprisingly enough, the gray stinks a whole lot worse than the black.
Yes, sir.
So we have found over the years that combining them does a number of things for us. But in the Entertainer world, you're getting rid of all that fun stuff so fast that really nothing has time to do anything. And especially if you've got a coach that's got a shower on it. This particular coach, we opted out on a shower bypass because we used to do that years ago, but it's just not looked upon so great anymore. So we catch everything. So now when we catch everything, we catch condensation from our roof airs, from our sinks, our toilets, showers, coolers, everything drains into the holding tank.
Yeah, that's nice too. I've never heard of anybody having their roof airs drain down into the holding tank, but come from the detail world when they drip down the side of the coach.
Well, it's a different hardness of water.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We have found that it's not so forgiving on the white part of the roof. But then my biggest reason is most drivers in our world, when we pull into an arena, or we pull into an area like this and the floor's concrete, a lot of times they'll just drop the front of the coach. So what happens is the condensation off the roof air always seems to run right to where the entrance door is. So you got a puddle of water. Well, they don't know that because the time when they've left, it's dry.
Yes, sir.
And so when they're in their hotel room, everybody's tracking everything in. So we've just learned over the years, we just catch it all. It's dry when they leave and everything works out.
Yeah, no better teacher than experience.
Yeah,
and you've got a lot of experience.
That's right. This particular customer and the way they use it does not allow for an outside entertainment center. But typically when we do that, we would slide all that back a little bit and we would pull out with our mechanism. I think everybody in the industry's come up with building their own mechanism for what works for them. But we can bring it out and slide it down, or I have an option where we put it on the back of the door and then it'll electrically come down. And so we do it both ways, depending on what they want and what works for them. And then the options are limitless.
Yeah, and I'm noticing no awnings across the top of the coach as well. Is that something that you put on some coaches? Or?
We do. Yep. We put them on most of all of our motorhomes. When this customer uses his coach, it's always moving. So there's really no opportunity for him to have awnings because he's off, out, into his facilities, doing what he does, and he's back on, and they're going to the next one.
Yeah, just one less thing that could possibly break.
Exactly.
So, yes, sir.
Exactly. One less thing that could go wrong.
Now, I don't know if you want to name drop it all, but I did see Arnold Schwarzenegger's name in your office there. Yes. Are there any really cool celebrities or names that you could drop that you've worked with?
That picture particularly, we did all the transportation when Arnold Schwarzenegger was governor of California. So when he would do bus interviews, and it was on, major networks and all that stuff, they were doing that from the inside of our coaches as they were going from point A to point B, and they wrapped that bus. It was pretty neat. And so they sent me that framed picture of him and the nice note and all that stuff. That was just a little appreciation thing. Those things are neat along the way that you get over the years. Some of our customers are like, Lucinda Williams. We've had Prince over the years, and we've had Bon Jovi. The unique thing about the entertainment industry from the coach leasing side is all of us have done everybody. It's like we're sitting around a pond and we've all got a fishing rod, and it's like, okay, somebody was $20 cheaper on something.
Yeah.
So yeah. So we've done everybody from some of the largest Southern gospel acts to some of the biggest rock and roll acts you can think of.
Any problem customers? Any crazy stories all those miles?
No, not really. Most people that ride on these things are pretty respectful because this is their home away from home. I guess back when I started, probably folks were a little more rowdy. But they'd save that for the hotel rooms because we were leaving.
Yes, sir.
Where'd those guys go? Oh, wow, they're already going to the next. We'll just have to hit their credit card. So, yeah, most wild stuff was saved for the hotel rooms. Nobody's really ever. I've been very fortunate. And that goes back to our culture with our drivers. And so, for the most part, people are pretty respectful. What I find is maybe, we got an industry standard where there's certain things you can do on buses and certain things you can't, like bathroom habits.
Yes, sir.
So sometimes every now and then somebody will do something funny, and it's always amazing. Nobody knows who did it.
Yes, sir. Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
So, but yeah, for the most part, folks are pretty respectful. They don't trash where they live and where they eat, but they'll get rowdy at a venue or in a hotel room if they're getting them. Sometimes they don't get hotel rooms anymore. The only guy on the tour getting a hotel room is the driver.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times they never really get off the bus. And that's kind of hard sometimes because when you spend that much time on a coach rolling down the road from show to show and you get up the same day and the only thing that changes is the venue, but once you turn the lights out, it all looks the same. And so sometimes you got guys that'll get in their bunk and they'll pull their curtain. They never get out. They don't talk to people. Then you got other guys that, they'll talk to everybody, never want to go to bed. And so it's just, it's crazy.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I had an opportunity to take a tour bus in the middle of COVID.
Yes.
And my favorite spot was to go right up front with that driver because, man, he had stories for days.
Absolutely.
So.
I probably got a story or two that I'll have to tell you later.
Yeah, we'll have to get some of those. Now, going back to the Prevost, you were mentioning that the Volvo D13 has really grown on you. I know a lot of you old school guys really like those pre-DEF Series 60s, but this is working good?
Well, I cut my teeth on a 318.
Oh, yeah, yes,
so
sir.
Those were the days when Oh, wow, you got an oil leak. Everything's good.
Yes,
so, yeah, now they've come they've come a long, long way. We have found that there's some things that maintenance related that we do really, really premature, and it just seems to help things out. There are mileage increments on certain items, and we've cut them in half.
What are some of those items, out of curiosity?
Well, like for example, if my memory serves me correct, I think the mileage intervals on changing the oil is a little bit higher than 25,000. I think it's either 30 or 40,000 is what they suggest. I cut it in half. We change an air dryer filter every time we do that. We change the air filter every time we do that. They say you don't have to, but it's cheap enough. I've got a buddy of mine that lives about 40 miles from here, got about 400 trucks. They've all got D13s in them. He started out doing exactly what they said to do on the first 10. And then he talked to another buddy of his, and he's like, man, don't do that. Don't do that. Do it this way. And the rest, he has no issues anymore. So I listened to him. I love the Series 60. I think the Series 60 is a great motor. You can put the miles on. And if you take care of them, I mean, they're pretty much bulletproof. But I have found these are a little more sensitive to maintenance, but if you'll do it, you don't have any issues.
Yes, sir. I'm really looking forward. I've heard some rumors that government regulations may let up a little bit, which would be a game changer for you guys.
It would be a real blessing. I think the talks are DEF related. We have some coaches that the fill neck is on the other side, and when the testing was being done, but now there's coaches and it's on both sides, and things are, they worked all that out and it's good. But it's a phenomenal piece of engineering.
Yes, sir. Do you mind if we pop the engine bay?
No, not at all.
And I like that this, is fully finished out, painted, even on the sides here.
Yes.
I'm noticing a lot of detail work in this bus.
I'm so picky about things, I even want the sides painted.
Yes, sir.
I don't like the metal showing when all the doors are closed.
I appreciate that. It looks really good. It makes a big difference.
It's the attention to detail, We don't really change anything back here. We do tie into the chassis batteries. We put two 24-volt chargers on, so we've got the ability to charge our house batteries if we need to by turning on our two 24-volt chargers and running the generator going down the road. So if you needed to do that because you lost an alternator or what have you, we can do that. It'll get us from A to B. Then that gives us typically enough time to get a part to them. We're a little different in regards to our hands-on experience with our drivers here. So what we do is I require somewhere between 80 and 120 hours a year for each driver, and they have to be in our shop. And they can't do it a day here and a day there. So when we do it, it's 40 hours at a time. They work with the folks that are in our shop. And because, as you well know, there's power in knowledge. And I find that once we do that, we don't have any freak out moments. Oh my gosh, this has happened. What am I going to do? Well, remember how we did this? And it's not that big a deal. You just got to do this and this first, and you'll be up and going again. And so we find that really helps us. But those chargers are up in the driver's bay. They're mounted on the wall, and they run off the generator. And so you could theoretically take all your belts off and trek down the road and get to where you're going. I'm really surprised a lot more people don't do that. I find a lot of 10 amp or dual 10 amp chargers to just trickle. But for example, I don't want to be stranded over a belt. I don't want to be stranded over an alternator. Although all my coaches carry alternators, all my coaches carry starters. They carry a lot of parts, but it's nice. When you look up, you pay attention to your gauges, you see that you're not charging on the chassis side. So you reach up, you fire your generator up, you turn the 24-volt charger on, you turn your over-the-road air off, you turn your dash air off, and you've already got your generator on. Usually by that time, somebody feels there's no air. Or when you can pull over, you run back through there and you turn all your roof airs on. And they don't know the difference. And
if you're in a spot where you can't change a belt or something,
correct,
and traffic, that could really come in handy. Now, you've had a lot of experience with these Prevosts. I know they went to the electric fans, I believe, around 2018.
Yes.
Did you notice a big difference when they went to the electric fans?
Yeah, somewhere between 38 and 45 horsepower. Wow. A little better fuel economy. The nice thing about it is you don't need every fan. I've not had a fan fail yet.
Until you said it.
Until I said it.
Yes,
That's
sir.
Exactly right. But it's funny because I've got 20 of those fans upstairs in case they do. Every coach has one or two fans on them. All my Volvo setups, 3 or 4 of them had fan clutches when we started. Prevost did their homework and found that it was absolutely an added value for them to create a fan kit. And so what coaches had fan clutches, we changed, modified, and put the fan kits in. The drivers that drive those coaches, now they really did tell a difference. The guys that got in coaches that always had the fan set up, they got used to it, so they didn't tell a difference. But when I changed the others over, great improvement. So what I really like about it is the technology is built into the fan setup, where if you're in a weather condition where the elements, like in the snow, when they accumulate and they build up, you never know that it happens, but the technology is there that if they get out of balance, they'll spin themselves backwards and throw all the stuff off. I think that's cool.
Absolutely, yes. I remember seeing pictures of old bus drivers scraping the snow off. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm really glad the days are gone that you don't have to make sprayers anymore to flip the water on to cool you down when you're running in Arizona.
Yes, sir.
But now this is our generator bay. And like I said earlier, we've switched and gone to Durawatt. One thing we like to do, I don't like to cut a coach anywhere that I don't have to. So if you'll notice, right now we're currently hooked up to shore power. We've got a deck plate that we run our shore power cable up through. And we got a buddy plug. So not that we ever encourage any of our people to hook up another bus to them, but if we had multiple buses on the road and we were at a venue, didn't have enough shore power, they were demanding because they don't want the generator running, we could hook another bus up to us. If they're not close enough to shore power, we could do some load sharing, maybe not run all 5 roof airs, because in the entertainer world, we have 5 roof airs.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Are those 15,000 BTU?
No, they're 13.5s. Okay. They come with heat strips. We do heat strips instead of the other, but in all of our builds, we also do an aqua hot. And most entertainer companies, they don't do an aqua hot. They do a hot water heater. But I have found it is very nice. In the winter, I used to get complaints about, man, is there anything we can do about when we fire the coach up? It takes all the heat. Where does it all go? Well, engine's not warm. You turn over the road air on because you're disconnecting from shore power or you're shutting your generator down. Got to wait for the coach to get warm. So you're blowing out all this cold air. And so what happens is the engine temperature is not warm enough. Well, everybody that has or uses an aqua hot knows if you order that with the engine preheat on, it keeps you 170 degrees. You fire the coach up, it's warm. You've not lost anything. You shut shore power down, shut generator down, whatever you're on, and you're able to switch over and roll right down the road, and you've not lost any climate control. Now, we do our generator installs a little different. We're not on slide racks.
Oh, yeah.
We don't put them on slide racks anymore.
Why not?
Well, because I started turning them sideways and I started pulling fresh air in from the bottom of the coach. We filter our air.
Oh, I see these filters.
Yeah.
I see those. Yeah.
So we filter our incoming air. And so the fan pushes the air through the radiator. Then we build a custom shroud and we take it down through the floor. And then underneath the coach, we curve that to blow that back towards the drive tires and towards the exhaust of the generator and the exhaust of the aqua hot. So when we are sitting somewhere, it helps move that exhaust and disperse that exhaust and all that fun stuff. But everything you need's here. So now, the only thing I do a little different is, if you'll notice, you don't see any fuel filters. All the fuel filters, this has a primary and a secondary fuel filter, and the fuel pump's gone. For longevity, I have found that if I get the fuel pump out of there, I remote it. There's about a 20-inch pickup from the fuel pump, from the fuel tank. Then I push the rest of the fuel over here. But the fuel filters, both fuel filters, are over in the air conditioning bay. So when I swing the door open on the passenger side for where the DEF tank is and the access to the fuel tank and all that fun stuff, then we've mounted that in such a way where you can still get your bucket under it when you change everything and when you drain everything, and it's way easier, and there's no contaminants over here. Because once you get it wet with diesel and once you get a little oil residue on it, it's hard on your filters, but when the air's coming through and the heat's combining, then you start getting this film and it starts changing the look of everything over the years. The other neat thing we do is we have quick disconnects for everything. I can have the generator out and on the table in 30 minutes. So that for us is valuable because you got to change a rear main seal. I mean, it's nothing but labor. It's a $30 part and the cleanup's horrible. And so in this particular build, he did not want a retractable shore power cable. So our front bumpers fold down. There's a big drawer that comes out. There's 2 sets of shore power cables, so we can go up to 125 feet. of 6.4, and we can couple those together, and everything has a pigtail, so we can, at a lot of venues, you hardwire in, or they just have the simple, 50 amp plug. So if you need that extra shore power cable, you can get it out, and it works out pretty well. We use an insulation, and I don't do a hush box. I turn the bay into the hush box.
Oh, yeah.
So it gives you a little bit more room. It works out for us quite nice. If this was a full-blown entertainer on the road all the time, we would rack the hours up pretty fast. I change the air over in the generator compartment about 4 times a minute. Sometimes you'll go by an entertainer coach, you'll see the generator bay door open.
Yeah, just to keep that airflow.
I can't stand that.
Yes,
I
sir.
really can't. I think there's so many things that could go wrong. Liability. Somebody walks by, they go, ooh, look at that, and they stick something in it, or anything could happen. So I contain it, and it's quiet. What Durawatt's done with their motor mounts there, those are almost better than airbags.
Really?
In fact, I'm not quite sure that they're not better than airbags. This is one of the quietest generators. In fact, this is the quietest generator I have with the radiator on the unit.
And I've heard that about the other Durawatts too, because a lot of the high-end motor coaches are switching to those in the last several months.
Yes.
Real recently, it seems.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and again, what I really like about them so well is that they're willing to work with you. Like I said, they came up, they made the measurements, they figured out what we could do to get it in there. When Prevost builds, part of their structural integrity is they've got those sweeping 45-degree pieces in the coach for the structure of the slide. And so you only have so much depth. Mm-hmm. So they came up, they rearranged some things, and then we figured out that what we needed to do is, like I said, we removed the 2 fuel filters, the fuel pump, and if you'll notice, there's no air filter. And so we remote the air filter as well. And we found by remoting the air filter, we get longevity out of the filter.
And is that housed in the same spot as the fuel pump?
Yeah,
the fuel
it's
filter?
over on the other side.
Okay, nice.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So it works really well. Then our plumbing bay, in the entertainer world, this is a difference from the motorhome world. So I don't close this up. A lot of people, they'll finish out their bays and all that stuff. Well, because there's always such a sense of urgency in the repair in our world, and our customers are never down here. If I was building this for you and you wanted it closed in, then we'd close it in, we'd match the coach, we'd do all that stuff. But it's nice to be able to not have those items get in the way for us when we work on stuff. So we pull the door open, everything is there. We do a manifold system. Our freshwater tank matches the size of our holding tank. So we're 115 gallons there as well.
Looks like 2 water pumps there.
Yes. We use a variable speed water pump that's 85 PSI.
Wow.
The one forward of the coach is the main water pump. And we use a flip-flop relay. So when you press that, it kills the power going to the forward pump. That way you're not sitting there. You don't need it anymore. So, and there's a way to bypass that if we need to, but we use a flip-flop relay in it. So we push that button in, it sends the power to pump number 2, but no one knows the difference. The water pump button on the dash still operates 2 mechanical relays, and you're still giving power there. And then there's a cutoff. If you notice, there's a ball valve on the front and a ball valve on the back. You close them. You don't have to drain your tank. Yep. You unbolt the water pump. You plug your wiring in, and you're up and going again, and you switch back to the new pump.
You guys have probably changed 1 or 2 water pumps in your day?
Well, yes, and it always seems that where you need to go to buy it, they've closed for the day. Once you figure it out. So,
well, when you got that second one on board,
absolutely.
You never miss a beat. So.
That's right. And so then we can have our AquaHot out pretty fast. Everything's got fuel disconnects for the supply and the return. And then we make a piece and we put the controls or the monitoring panel on the door.
Yeah, I like to see that cool use of space, a little bit different than we usually see, but yeah, super simple. And I like that philosophy of, I like seeing everything and just being able to jump in there and get right to it.
That's right. And then the dump, it has a washout. So once your hose is still connected and down through the floor, then you can take your ball valve there, open it up after you've evacuated everything, and you can rinse out your sewer hose.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And so that comes with the same PSI as the rest of the system, and it works quite nice. Yes. And then there's a water fill over here too, and that's the one they use most of the time.
Yeah, very simple, very user-friendly.
Yes, exactly.
Now I'm seeing something really cool here that I've never seen before. it almost looks like double rope lighting. I'm seeing a blue and a white string of lights.
It is. The customer wanted to be able to have basically 3 different effects. They wanted to be able to change the hue in the room. They wanted to be able to have, a customer at one time said, a Papa Smurf moment in there. So
yes, sir.
it is so intense with those full on and everything else off. It is really, really blue. But then for reading purposes and just in your face bright, the white will just absolutely light the room up. You almost don't even need any of the ceiling lights on. That 2 different effects was the customer's idea. But the neat thing about that is that's exactly what we do. We try to pay attention, we try to listen. I try to never say no. And the reason being is because, again, we're back to nobody understands his lifestyle better than he does. And so those are the types of things. It's double the money, but it's not that great of money. So it's a great effect. And so when you build it the way they want it, they're happier.
Oh, yes, sir. And when we walk around the coach here, it's almost like a slight 3-dimensional effect there, just having both of those rows of lights. I've never seen that before, but really cool little touch there.
And then, of course, bay number 1 is just, the other side of the pass-through.
Yeah, full pass-through bay. Now, do you ever convert H's at all or only X's?
Most of our builds have always been XL2s or X3s. And we like that coach really well. If I've paid attention correctly, I think the motorhome world really loves the H for the base space and all the toys they take. But in our world, they usually have a tractor trailer or we're pulling a trailer behind the bus. And we find that since the bunk setup is so valuable, that the new 91 plus inch headroom interior is a big deal. So if you can gain a couple of inches when you're stacking 3 bunks high, when that guy or gal goes to turn over, it's not, oh my gosh, I've hit my shoulder on the guy above me or that kind of thing. So that's valuable in our world.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of the X's myself personally,
Yes.
just nothing like the stainless. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If you get the right person that polishes your stainless for you, then it's a pretty slick setup.
You probably know our buddy Peter over at Almost Chrome.
I do. In
Yes,
fact,
sir.
he polishes some of our coaches, does work for us, and phenomenal fella. He's come a long way. I remember when he started.
Oh, I was following him back when I was detailing coaches, taking notes from him for a long time.
Somebody told me a story one time that before he got into polishing buses, he was detailing boats. And you would see him out floating in the water, riding some kind of
a raft or
yes, something, sir. Out there getting it done. So
I believe it.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So we want to see the inside.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good.
Rob, I think this is my new favorite floor plan, unlike anything I've ever seen, with 2 full baths. Just an incredible build here.
Oh, thank you. That's exciting. I really appreciate it. We've come a long way. We build a little differently than we used to. Things are a little bit more of a process now. We really enjoy what we do. The exciting part for us is each individual customer has their own sets of needs that we try to bring alive and bring to the table. And when we hit that mark, it's a good day here at Russell Coach.
I'm looking forward to seeing the different ways you've catered to this customer's needs. Now, this is a single slide coach, but
yes,
I can't wait to show everybody the whole coach. But up front here, this is a little bit different than what we see in most of the motorhomes. We've got a pocket door here, so the cab can be completely separate from the coach?
Yes. In the entertainer world, this is pretty standard. So you separate the driver from the living quarters or the front lounge per se, and then that way they can roll down the road. It can be as bright as it is in here now. They can do their own thing. There's separation. The driver's not distracted. He's in the dark where he should be, because most of the time, entertainer drivers, their day starts somewhere around 11, 12, 1 a.m. in the morning after a show, and they roll to the next show. And then that way, the pocket door shuts everything off, the lighting, the noise, bus, whether the driver's got his radio on or somebody's up there enjoying time with him. Because traditionally in motorhomes, as you all well know, everything is so open. And it's usually the customer, you know, the 2 or 3 of them, and they're traveling to where they want to go. But in the rock and roll world, which our customer really enjoys, those types of buses, he wanted that feel. He wanted to be able to separate himself, be able to work at his desk, going down the road in the middle of the night, not having to worry about whether or not the reflection on the windshield is bugging him or bugging the drivers or those types of things.
Yeah, very cool. And you guys did not skimp. Even the captain's chairs up here have like an ostrich type leather with a two-tone with a tan and blue.
They do. He had a theme. And so we tried to stay as true to his theme as we could. And so we have an ostrich insert, a blue ostrich insert with a brown leather that he picked. And he picked everything. We sat down, went through everything. In fact, our couch was going to be a different color. I messed up. And so I covered it in this, and he decided that he didn't want the other color. So Villa is a vendor of ours. And so that's a full-blown Villa, and so is it for the passenger or the buddy seat. And we sent it back to them. They recovered it, pulled the old off, all that fun stuff. And then our driver's seats, I'm a Recaro fan. I really like Recaros. I like what they do, how they build. And we sent them the material, and then they covered it for us. And so that was, for us, that was great. But the separation, the desk, his own chair, it works for him.
Yes, sir. And then up here in the cockpit, it's quite a bit different than the cockpit that we see in a lot of the motorhome Prevos. You've got the CB radio. You've got this Russell Coach panel up front here, backup camera. What's going on up in this part of the cockpit area here?
Well, that houses our controls for our AquaHot, for our inverter, freshwater tank, holding tank LEDs, generator gauges and hour meters. Then you've got some written jargon that when a driver is hooking up shore power, there's a series of lights there that tell you things that you should and shouldn't do. 24 volt house gauge is there because we charge in 24 volt. And then you've got both legs of AC power and 2 amp meters. He wanted an airplane cockpit feel.
It definitely feels that way. And then, you know, the simple analog Prevo dash with the nice features like the ability to raise and lower these front shades from the steering wheel. Like we mentioned before, the Prevo shell and the drivability of the Prevo, just nothing like it on the road. Now you do have an air pocket door. Now the rest of the doors in the coach are not going to be ran by pneumatic air, but what was your reasoning for using the air? Can we, is it okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's a quick door too.
It
no
is.
Delay there like some of the other coaches.
We found in the entertainer world, lots of people like to try to beat the door. So we've sped it up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you give the command, you let it do what it needs to. And then since we are in the commercial world, we've got to have a liability point. So if the air fails, we put a handle up high. That way you can slide the door right back out of the way if you need to. And then, so that's easier for the driver. Instead of somebody coming up and shutting it or slinging it open, you can control it from that side. You can control it from the other side of the wall, and then the driver control it on the dash as well.
Just press a button.
Just press a button and it opens and closes.
That makes sense. Now it's going to be manual pocket doors to the rest of the coach.
The 2 bathrooms and the other 2 pocket doors are manual, and so that way you rule out some things that could fail.
You mentioned that this owner is working on the road, and this is quite a nice setup up front here with this recliner and a workspace. Now, will this recliner move forward to be closer to the desk?
Yes, it'll move forward, it'll rotate, it'll recline, footstool comes out, it has the massage option in it, and then the headrest is electric as well. And it's a 3-point seat belt tied into the chassis for NHTSA purposes. That's the only manual part of it, is that you have to rotate manually, but everything else is electric.
Yeah, super comfortable. And then,
and there's a vibrate button somewhere.
Yeah, super comfortable chair.
Yeah, from what I understand, he really enjoys that. And the front seat does the same thing. It just doesn't, because of the wall, it doesn't recline much.
Yes,
but then
sir.
He wanted a window. He can look out the window as well.
Okay.
As he's going down the road.
Yes, sir.
And if not, they can pull the blind and close the blind.
So this moves forward quite a bit then.
It does, yes. Yeah. And then you can pull the front part of the desk down, and it will slide out as well.
A nice work area here with some cup holders, and
yes,
even the insert around the window has that ostrich leather there. Outlets with USB ports, more USB ports. Now I'm seeing some sort of ventilation right here. What is this for?
That's over-the-road air. So as the coach travels down the road, this unit has over-the-road air. So the driver controls the entire passenger cabin from one end to the other, and then he can also control his HVAC as well.
And that over-the-road air, I think that's what we've also heard referred to as bus air.
Yes, correct.
And that's a pretty expensive option from Prevost on the shell.
It is, yes. Now I think bus air or over-the-road air now is right at about 20 grand. I think that's right.
And you can only get bus air or over-the-road air in a single or double slide or non-slide coach. I don't think the triple and quads have enough room in the bays for it.
That's right. You only get driver's air.
But I've heard that it's, you could be driving through Arizona in the middle of the summer and have this thing like a meat locker.
You can, yeah. And then we insulate really well. We use a pretty high R value insulation. It'll hold its temperature pretty well. You can wear a jacket 95 degrees outside in here.
Yes, sir. And then I'm noticing opposing TVs here. So we've got, the two TVs. Obviously, when this recliner swivels, they've got a direct sight of that TV. And then when you're over here on the couch, you've got both TVs here. What other AV is in this coach?
This particular coach is really, it's got a big data package on it. So there's 3 sources of SIM cards with unlimited, unthrottled data. And then there is Starlink. The router that we use, the customer never knows what they're on. So it's whatever's strongest and best, and switches without them having any idea. And there's no buffering. And we also use Apple TV in this particular coach. Then the full surround sound system. And we're driving everything with a Denon product right now. Your center channel is in the center of the coach in the ceiling. Then your other speakers are set appropriately where you get the full effect of your surround sound. Klipsch subwoofer underneath the dinette booth. I've always been a Klipsch fan. That's what we use for our subwoofers, and they seem to be pretty bulletproof.
Yes, sir. And I'm noticing, I love this. It's like an ostrich skin on the roof here as well. Your Dometic AC control is unlike anything I've ever seen before. It's at a slight tilt. It's a little bit higher. And then your AC controls and your lighting switches are a little higher. Is there a reasoning for that?
Well, when entertainers come after the end of a show, they're dragging a bag. They're people coming in with them, in and out, that kind of thing. And we found if we can get it up out of the way, then nobody rips it off with a shoulder. We tilt the air conditioner so you can read the display. The white thermostat underneath there goes to the zone control for the AquaHot. And then, of course, the rest are lighting switches and door controls.
Super simple and easy. And we've got all different lighting configurations with the blue and the white lights.
Yes.
What was the thought process in the lighting in this coach?
Well, the customer wanted he wanted to be able to have 2 completely different atmospheres. And so with the lighting in here, we can go completely blue, or we can go like we are now and have both sets on. And we can even change the hue of the white a little bit if we take away the blue. He gets 3 different lighting effects. He can ramp those lights up and down to his desired setting. And it works out quite nice.
Yeah, it really does. And again, like we were talking about, on the outside with the double rope lighting, it gives it like a 3-dimensional feel, and it's just as cool inside the coach as outside.
Right.
And then I see seat belts here on the couch.
Yes.
And it looks like this is a little more padded on this side as well.
It is. He wanted to be able, for when he sat on the couch, or if a guest came, they could put their back up against the table, stretch their feet out, and lounge a little differently. And then, of course, if you've got more guests in here and they're riding with you, this is a seatbelt bus. So every seat position has a seatbelt. That's how we build them all now, especially in the commercial world. So this is the best of both worlds. Although it is a private use coach, it does fall under the commercial, the DOT stuff. So with the 2 drivers and all that, we do everything by the book.
We were talking a little bit before we turned the camera on, but you had this coach is in your fleet. So this gentleman purchased this coach, but Russell Coach manages this coach as well.
Yes, we manage the bus. We employ the driver. We control all the ELD stuff and the fuel and everything. And then that way he can concentrate on what he's using it for, and he doesn't have to create another division at his company to be in the leasing business.
Yes, sir. And I think he's so happy with this build that if someone wanted to write a check for this coach, he might be willing to sell it and do another build with you.
I think he would do that. Yes.
I think we'll talk more in a little bit about how much someone would need to become the next owner of this coach, but I think you guys are going to be surprised. But I'm seeing a little open close button here. What is this button for?
Yeah, so on an entertainer shell versus a motorhome shell from Prevost, on the motorhome side, Prevost offers what they call awning windows. So there's a motor and an arm that drives that window out and the whole window opens. But in the entertainer world, sometimes they like to open the window going down the road. So it is what they call an electric sliding window. It's not an awning window, and so the whole thing opens and closes. It's also the emergency exit on this side of the coach, and you push the two red tabs out and pull the window out and discard it and
yes, sir,
and get out.
Really nice option though if someone wanted to get some fresh air while they're going down the road.
Yes, and so and it works quite nice because sometimes people, they like to smoke a cigarette.
I know these entertainers are a little wild.
Sometimes.
And I've heard old stories about old bus drivers where when they open that driver Prevost window, it just sucks all the smokes right out of it.
Coach.
Where you literally could be in the back of the coach and not even smell the cigarette. I've seen it before. I don't know how it works.
That's right. The vacuum in the coach allows a vacuum to be created. Anything going on in the coach happens to make its way up right past the driver's nose.
Yes, sir. And we don't condone smoking, but hey, when you're writing a check for a coach at this level, you can do whatever the heck you want back here. Right. Yes, sir. Now, coming back here, I'm noticing more of a half booth split dinette.
Yeah, because when the room's in, it still needs to be functional.
Yes, sir.
And when you've got 10 to 12 people on it, not in this particular unit, but the concept is the same, you still need to feel that you're not choked out or have an obstacle to get around as you move.
You've got, cup holders and outlets and USB ports. I like the way you built this. Just a really cool design. And then I see another button here for the table. What is that button for?
That's your table lights. That turns on the two lights over the table. Those are off or on. Then most everything else is dimmable.
And I like just all the manual switches. We've talked about it before. It can get a little frustrating if you've got to go through a tablet to turn your lights on or control your shades. Now, are the shades in this power or manual shades?
No, they're manual.
Yes, sir.
So you can give a little tug and it'll take off.
Yes, sir.
You can pull it down, or you can.
I'm a fan of manual.
And there you go.
Less stuff that can break, and
that's right.
You're the guy that's getting the calls at 2 a.m.
That's right.
So you don't want to be getting calls about shades at 2 a.m.
Well, and for us in our world, that's a custom shade. So I didn't order double sets of shades, so it takes a minute if something fails or messes up. I got to have it rebuilt and all that fun stuff. So we try to make it as user-friendly as we possibly can.
Yes, sir. And I've got to point out how quiet it is in this coach. I just barely heard your intercom system when we were filming outside, and that chirped. It was like,
it's loud.
It was very loud.
Yes.
And I could barely hear it out there. This is a single slide coach, but it's got that air seal around the slide. Just really keeps noise out.
Correct. Yep. And Prevost does that quite well. No rain, no wind, not anything needed.
I've got to compliment your design style. I like that there's no cabinets overhead here. I mean, I'm 6'2", and I'm standing up. This slide room is a very tall slide room here.
It makes it feel more open. He didn't need all the storage that maybe we need in an entertainer. Of course, there's not as many people riding around in this one as there is in an entertainer coach. So every cubby hole and cabinet and drawer makes all the difference in the world in an entertainer coach. He wanted a larger kitchen, and he wanted more storage there and wanted to hide the garbage can underneath the cabinet and that kind of thing.
Now, is there storage below the sofa here?
Yes, there is. And so you can...
there's your central vac components.
That's right.
Yes,
there's your central vac components. And the drawers, the latches are in the back. There's no handles on purpose. And you grab from the bottom of the drawer and pull it out.
And then also more storage below this booth as well, I believe.
Access.
So it's not a drawer, but it is still storage.
You can store some stuff in there, and then the subwoofer's back behind
you. Oh, nice. You mentioned that the owner wanted to do more in the galley here. And this backlit backsplash, what a cool look. It reminds me of what we see in some of the $3 million coaches.
It's a great effect. We were going to recess it in the wall behind me as well. And then we decided not to do that. That's really really a nice lighting effect when everything's off and you're going down the road at the middle of the night and everything's closed. It's enough to be able to still see, make a cup of coffee, wash your hands, do whatever you need to. And it's a really, really nice effect.
Yes, sir. And a lot of countertop space here right now. They've got the Keurig set up and a cool, like a hammered copper or a hammered metal sink there.
It's a hammered stainless steel sink.
Yes, sir.
He had sent me a picture. Hey, you think there's any way we could do this sink? This is in my bar at my house.
Nice.
And I said, well, make it happen. And that's what we do. I don't want to tell anybody no. If that's not the sink that's in the quote, I'm not going to get too tore up about whether or not we spend 5 times on a sink. There's more important things.
Yes.
If he wants a hammered stainless steel sink, that's what he's going to get.
Yes, sir. Well, and this is something I've only seen in a few coaches, but I love the way that these refrigerators are. Just gives it such a different look, not
Correct.
having the taller refrigerator. But
Yes.
I'm not going to hold you to pronouncing the names of these, but do you mind if I open one of these up here?
No, go ahead.
And he's got it. It's loaded up. It's ready to hit the road right now.
Yes.
Little Coca-Cola, some Lunchables,
Yes,
protein
right.
shakes. And then this is probably going to be more of a freezer drawer down below.
That one is set up as a freezer. The neat thing about this refrigerator is you can make any of the 4 drawers anything you want them to be.
Oh, cool.
So, and then the thing that we like about it is this can run off 12 volt, 24 volt, 48 volt, or 120 volts AC. So you can have different power sources, but in this particular setup, it runs off an inverter all the time. Now, if the inverter goes out, then there's 24 volts supplied to them. So at least if you lose your inverter, you don't lose the capabilities of keeping everything cold or frozen.
And with that big boy 5,000 watt inverter, are you able to run one of the ACs off of it as well?
We can, but we did not do that on this one just for the simple fact that it has over-the-road air.
Oh, yeah.
And he's hot-natured, kind of like I am. So with 5 roof airs, one just won't quite get it done. So we would run the generator going down the road, and we would run all 5 roof airs.
Yeah, but with that bus there, you probably don't really need to run the generator.
You don't need it at all. You'd only do that going down the road if there was an issue, if you broke a belt on your air compressor, and you'd need to fire it up and do that if you were not safe to pull over and put another belt on.
Yes, sir. Understandable. Now, you mentioned trash receptacle here.
Well, their lifestyle said that it afforded them that size garbage can.
Yes, sir.
So with having 2 full-time drivers on here all the time, I would imagine that garbage can's probably never been full.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, and of course, that's how that works there. And then, of course, they are living in the disposable world. And so the cabinets are, you never know what you're going to find in a cabinet when you pull it out. And then, of course, there's 3 right back there underneath the sink as well.
More drawer space here.
More drawer space. That's a half one because of plumbing.
And the cabinet, they keep them loaded up, but they are all lined with carpet here as well. I hope it's okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Going through this owner's coach here.
Absolutely. We do carpet because we've found in our world that it cuts down on so much noise. It's a little bit more durable when people are just kind of tossing a bunch of disposable stuff up there and things shift around and they don't vibrate in the carpet world. And so what happens is if the carpet gets, like in any of our other coaches that people revolve on and off of all the time, it's way easier to freshen that up with new than it is to relaminate or to build another cabinet or that type of thing. So the carpet can be changed very, very fast.
And you mentioned there's no squeaks and rattles in this coach when it's going down the road?
None. That's one of the reasons it takes us a little longer than most people to build. That used to be a point of contention for me. Now it's very nice when a coach leaves that we've built that it doesn't come back. It's ready to go to work. It's ready to be enjoyed. It's been put through the ringer. It's been exercised. We learned early on from building coaches for other people at times that when you have a deadline and you can't hit it, then you tend to make mistakes.
Yes, sir.
So I don't like them coming back. I want them to go to work for who we build for, or I want them to fully enjoy what they've paid a lot of money to experience. And the tiniest little things can make something go south so fast. As I mentioned earlier about that Disney World experience, you can't have that if the attention to detail is just not there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I'm seeing the attention to detail in this coach. Just all the indirect lighting. There's so many little touches.
Yes.
Like you said, it's not like over the top. It's all in the little details that you pay attention to.
Well, and there's companies for over the top, and they do extraordinary well. And so what we have found with our millions of miles and our building approach for those types of roadworthy conditions, and sometimes they're brutal, it just makes the difference when you're able to execute simple well.
Oh, you're speaking my language, and I think a lot of the other, bus owners out there appreciate that philosophy as well.
Yes, when I first got into this business, I thought it was very unique that the number one thing I heard from all of our customers were, man, I can't work any audio video. I've got 47 remotes. I'd love to just have one. So I paid attention. So we've got one remote.
Yeah, how many remotes are in this bus?
One, and everything has a remote, but there's a simple universal remote. Of course, now one of the nice things about technology is you don't have to have so many different components to do what you need to do. When you've got things like Apple TV and you've got these robust data packages that you can pay for and get, and the equipment that comes with it, it supplies you so many more techie things. And I have found that this level of customer that has this type of disposable income, they either are extremely techie or they got their grandkids that are. The one remote seems to solve so many issues of frustration that it works really well for us.
I can appreciate that. I just like the analog buttons. I like to be able to just press a button, put my blinds up manually.
Yeah, we find that a lot of people's like, man, I can't find my tablet and I need to turn the light on.
Yes, sir.
You walk over to the button and you press it and you turn it on. Some people say it's a little old school, but what I like about it is the battery in the button doesn't fail. There isn't one. So you walk over to it and you turn it off, turn it on, or hold your finger on it and it ramps up and down and you set your desired, intensity of your light and you enjoy it.
Yes, sir. Well, as creative as you've gotten while still being simple in this part of the coach, back here, I think, I hope you're not going to be offended when people start bootlegging this floor plan, because I'm telling you guys, 5-10 years from now, I think this is going to be your different variations of this floor plan. I think this is it right here. I think this is the newest, latest, and greatest. You think we can show them back here?
Absolutely. Be my pleasure. Go ahead.
Now, manual pocket door back here.
Door. Yes.
Now, check this out, guys. So
with a brake when it goes in the back of the door. So it holds it in its position. It won't come out going down the road.
Okay, nice, nice. Yeah. Now, we've got 2 long bunks. Now, how long are both of these bunks?
They are 6 feet, 8 inches long.
Okay, so a big, tall guy can easily, and the X is so much higher than the H's that tall guys really like these X's, I feel like.
They do. And the neat thing about this is it's set up as what we call condo bunks, but we can pull that top bunk out and go back up about 12 inches, and we pull the bottom bunk out, which becomes the middle bunk, and you can have 3 high. Now, that's manual.
Yep.
But there is an option that we can operate it with a key. But what I find is most people like a manual because once they set them up, that's how they're set up.
Yes, sir.
Or I can remove them and we can change it into a closet.
Can't be easily removed.
Oh, no, it's locked in.
It's a pretty big process.
No. Two people can change that in from where it is right now. 2 people can change it in 20 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm noticing just, down here, bunk light here, so you've got a light for your bunk.
Yes.
The AC is ducted in here.
One's from over the road air, one's from the roof air that is exclusive to just this compartment of the bus. So if you want it 60 degrees while you're hanging out in the parking lot, you can accomplish that when you're on generator or shore power. And the rest of the coach can be whatever temperature is desired.
Yes, sir. And then you've got these, curtains right here if you want to have some privacy. And then again, like we saw earlier in the coach, I really like the positioning of the AC controls, lighting controls. You're not accidentally bumping into stuff. Yeah, I really like the bedding that you used on the bunks too as well. Is that all done in-house?
No, actually, this customer, he has 2 different sets of things. He has this when we're on the road. Then, of course, when he's entertaining, there's a full-blown theme that has been all custom made, the branding of his company.
Oh, cool.
And it's pretty incredible.
Oh, cool. And then I just noticed this door. Is this a door right here?
Yes. So that's part of the system. We completely swing that door out of the way, as well as the one up at the head, because you always want to go feet first. In case the driver slams the brakes on, you don't pancake anybody.
Yes, sir.
So, but what happens is this swings all the way out, as well as the one up there at their head, and then this removes off. You lay it up, and you pull the tray out, and then move it up or down.
Okay, so if you want to have, pull this out and just have a really tall bunk as well.
Absolutely.
I've seen that so that you have a lot more headroom for your driver. I mean, just so many details like that ostrich leather on the face of the bunk here, as well as the ceiling all the way throughout. But ladies and gentlemen, this is where I get really excited because we've got 2 full baths with 2 showers. And is it okay if I walk in the shower here? I mean, check out, the hidden drain too. I like that you guys did.
Yeah, those are cool, aren't they?
Hidden drain, yes, sir. But this is a huge shower, plenty of headroom. And if you wanted to, shower at the same time as your spouse and save some water, I think there's plenty of room for 2 people. And we've got 2 showers. This is just incredible and beautiful tile work on the floor with that circular design that feels really nice on my feet. And then they match that with the backsplash and this little, soap cubby right here. And that same style of ostrich leather on the ceiling and wall here in the shower, just over the top. Now, is there a vent in this shower?
There's not, but it's climate controlled. If you'll look at the ceiling, you'll see a custom vent that's been sewn out of material. And we supply air conditioning and heat into the shower, each shower. I've found over the years being on the road, there's nothing worse than getting out of your shower and you start to sweat.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
we actually supply HVAC into our showers.
Wow.
And then when this door is closed, this pocket door is closed, there is a vent in the ceiling. In fact, that is out of HVAC. So my apologies. There is a vent in the shower.
Oh, it is a vent with a fan. Yes, sir.
With a fan. Yeah, and it pulls the steam right out of there.
Yes, sir. And is there heated floors in this coach?
No, there's no heated floors. You can control the AquaHot heat in this bathroom. You can control the AquaHot heat if you're sitting out in the front lounge. You can control the one in the bunk area. You can control the one in his bathroom. You can control then in the bedroom. So there's quite a bit of heat. And then, of course, going down the road, you have bus air. And so then if you don't need your AquaHot heat, then you have the heating elements that are in the 5 roof airs.
So you mentioned the owner of this coach is like you guys prefer the cooler climates. So,
yes. In fact, all 2 drivers and the customer, I've seen pictures every now and then where they ride down the road with their jackets on. They'd rather have it that cold and have a jacket on than be sweating.
I like it. I like it.
So we can do that.
Well, and this bathroom here is still, a really good sized bathroom. I've been trying to tell the Prevost converters to put 2 full baths with 2 showers in a Prevost for as long as I've been making these videos. And this is the first time I've seen it done. And this is just an incredible use of space. We've got a backlit mirror here. I mean, it's a pretty small sink right here, but it's plenty of room to wash my hands, brush my teeth.
Yep.
How big of a sink do I really need here?
And that's a custom sink. I couldn't find it, so we made it.
Oh, nice.
Couldn't find one that small. We made our own sink.
Yes, sir. And then, a little bit of storage up here for your toilet paper or your liquefied RV toilet treatment. That's our buddy Matt's RV Reviews has a toilet treatment company. We'll have to get you some of that. But really well lit back here. But we're only about halfway through the coach here still. I think behind this door is where it gets real exciting. Can we see what's going on back there?
Absolutely.
So we've got a second full bathroom with a second shower right on the other side of this door. So this is going to be a similar size bathroom to the first one as far as the water closet without the shower?
Correct. That's right.
Maybe a little bit bigger?
It's a little bit bigger. The sink's a little bit bigger.
Yep.
The shower's laid out just a touch different, although it's the same theme. It took a trip or two for everybody to figure out. We installed the tile a different direction in this shower than we did the other, even though it's the same. And so those little things we sometimes do and don't ask just to see if people notice.
Yes, sir.
And it was well received, so it was a happy day.
Good. Well, and that like frosted glass shower door here. And then I'm going to just try this out for size here. And I want to point out there is a pretty decent step into the shower here. Now, what is your reasoning for having an elevated shower floor?
Plumbing.
Yes, sir.
We just simply got to get the drain forward for the shower. And so that's how we accomplish that. I find if you short that or run it with too many degree angled things, they don't drain so well. So we try to keep it a straight shot.
Well, you've put in a lot of reps and have a lot of experience, so I'm going to trust your wisdom on that. And I still have plenty of headroom here, even with the higher shower floor. We've got a little vent with a fan here. Again, you can see that AC is ducted into this shower as well. And then I see what you're saying about the more vertical style, subway style tile on this floor. And again, that hidden drain with the little circle feel on your feet just feels really good. And just a slight radius here with that material, very well lit, just a really cool shower here.
Thank you.
And then now coming back here, I'm a big fan of the north-south bed, and there's no slide room in this bedroom.
No.
So you still got, a nice sized bedroom back here.
Yes. There's a lot of reasons that we do that. It is simply for sleeping. The forward-facing feet for us is a big deal, just for a lot of safety reasons. Plus, in your traditional motorhome where you've turned a queen or a king size bed sideways, most everybody, when they go to sleep, they've stopped. They're not rolling anymore. Well, this particular customer, they roll all the time. So 2 drivers, they leave Tennessee and they go straight to California, and they do that nonstop legally. One's sleeping, one's driving, but that's how it is. And with your feet forward, from the safety perspective, if something should ever happen, it's just a better way to slide.
Yes, sir.
Than being rolled. So,
yes, sir. Yeah. I had an opportunity to take a tour bus during COVID, I mentioned before, and having that Volvo D13 back there, it's like some nice white noise that kind of puts you to sleep. Yes. But north-south is definitely a more preferable setup. Now, we've got some good closet space here, but also more closet space up here.
So he likes to bring a few things with him. So it's a full-length hanging closet for the items that he carries with him, and then he'll store some boots and some shoes down in the bottom.
AV equipment here? Or?
Yes, that's what drives all your speakers. That's another Denon product, and then we supply AC power in this little cubby hole, and the audio video connections for your Apple TV, because sometimes he'll be in different vehicles and he'll take his Apple TV with him. And so instead of incorporating it in where you can't take it out, like in my other coaches, that's what we do, and we hide it. But he likes to take his with him sometimes, depending on where he's going and what he's doing.
And talking about AV, I'm counting 5 speakers in the ceiling here. And I like the way this panel's dropped a little bit with that indirect accent lighting. Just really cool look.
Right. And that's for HVAC too. So there's ventilation there. So the roof air that is back here, it disperses there, and the return is, that's what that grill's for there. Easy, very easy to change. I found over the years on working on a lot of different RVs and different units that everybody hides the air conditioning vent, and of course that's not good.
Yes, sir. So you need that airflow.
You gotta clean them. We make that easily accessible to do so. Your center channel speaker is in the center, and then of course the other 4 speakers in the ceiling are right and left, rear and front, and you've got that same Klipsch subwoofer underneath the bed.
So another subwoofer, separate than the one we saw.
Two completely different systems. They're completely independent from one another.
I bet you it gets rocking back here.
It can get pretty intense.
Yes, sir. Well, then we've got 2 nightstands or end tables on both sides of the bed with 2 cup holders on both sides of the bed as well.
Yes.
And then is that going to be closet space?
That is closet space. Yeah, that's a little bit more closet space.
We open it up?
We can, yes. If you don't mind, you're a little closer, and I'll...
Yeah, I can get this side here.
There we go. And I think he takes his guitar with him. Make it accessible for the backup camera to get to pretty easy. And
can you open it that way too?
Absolutely.
Yeah, then you can access it from both sides.
You can, yes.
Always good to have that safety vest there.
Yeah. I think when he goes to visit places that he has, that's a much needed requirement for him. So,
and I think he might be a little bit of a cowboy too.
he loves his cowboy hats. So he asked us, that was a last minute thing. He said, could we get some kind of wedge on the wall that I could hang my cowboy hat on, other than the traditional wire piece like what goes in a truck and spring loads the hat up. He wanted to be able to display different hats at different times. So for the video, we left the cowboy hats in here. We thought it was cool.
Absolutely. And again, just that same ostrich leather for the cowboy hat holder there. Just every little detail you guys went over the top with.
Yes. We tried our best. And the nice thing about this industry is that if you can think it up, we'll do our very best to build it. That smile at the end of the process is equal with that purchase. And the relationship that you get to have and continue to have after the sale is so valuable.
Well, and I can understand why this customer was so excited about his coach. When he called me and told me about it, now I'm really, seeing it and feeling why he's so excited about it. And he was the one that had us come out here. He had to twist your arm to...
Yes, he did. The relationship for me has just been an incredible blessing. And he is such a kind individual. I think he wants to sell it and build another one. He's fired up.
Well, and I think it's okay to leave in here that this was a gift from...
Yes, absolutely.
It's not cheap for us to show up out here. And I think you said more money was spent on marketing today for us to show up than you've spent in 30 years in business.
Correct. We've been very fortunate. Our word of mouth, our customers and their word of mouth and their expression about what we deliver has been so valuable over the years. I can honestly say I am one of probably the few companies in our great United States that does not have an advertising budget. It has been so powerful, the word of mouth. Here we are 30 years later. So when he offered this to us, I was like, are you sure this is what do you really want to do this? And it was so funny. He said, do you really want to do this? And I said, well, I probably need to put our seatbelt on. The phone's probably going to start to ring a little bit differently with a little bit more inquisitiveness than we've had on that division of our company in quite a while, but we look forward to it.
Well, I really appreciate him, giving this to you as a gift, because this has been just an incredible experience for me to learn so much more and to see your philosophy in the way you build coaches. And I can understand why he was so excited to share the best kept secret.
Well, I really appreciate it. And I hope that's how it turns out to be, because we really do love what we do. I mean, in my old office, I've got a little sign that says, it's called the luxury business because at Russell Coach, we understand no one needs what we do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, and it truly is a philosophy we've lived by. So we really value every customer we have.
Now, you mentioned that the owner of this coach would be willing to let go of this coach for the right amount of money.
I believe he would.
How much money would he need to let go of this coach with only 17,000 miles on it? And it's a 2024, I believe?
Yes. So he would probably sell this coach for $1.7 million.
And you'd be going back to work building another one.
And I think we'd have an opportunity to build him another one. He's already talked about a different style floor plan.
Really?
Yep, but still keeping the 2 showers and the 2 bathrooms. That is a must for him, and very, very important. And I'm kind of excited that this is the first one you've seen. That is just really, really neat for me.
And I've seen just a few buses.
You have seen 1 or 2.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But yeah, $1.7 million would get this purchased, and we'd go to work on another one for somebody or for him, and would love the opportunity.
Yes, sir. If someone's a serious and qualified buyer and they want to purchase this coach or talk to you about even leasing a coach or purchasing a coach, who's the best person for them to get a hold of?
Well, the best person for them to get a hold of in the leasing department would be Wendy Russell. And you can reach her at wendy@russellcoach.com, or you can reach her at leasing@russellcoach.com. And of course, I'm old school, so I like the telephone. So you can reach us at area code 865-525-3888.
Awesome.
And I still answer the phone sometimes.
That's great. And a huge special thanks to the owner of this coach for this opportunity. We really appreciate him for that.
Absolutely.
Rob, it's been an absolute honor and a pleasure to see everything you're doing here in Knoxville.
Thrilled to have you here.
Really appreciate you. And we also really appreciate all of you out there subscribing to the channel and making this happen. We hope you're all having a great day. Thanks again.
I do have some coaches that are out going right now that have got 1 million+ miles on them. 30 years, 1.2 million documented miles under my belt. This has got 2 showers, 2 complete full bathrooms. I don't think anybody's done it yet.